Good evening, friends. Today our guests are two very articulate gentlemen, Abhijit Iyer Mitra, Senior Fellow at Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies, and Abhimanyu Kaul, Principal, Consultant, Values-Based Change Management. A warm welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Yeah. In India, viewers, we have 1 million people we can learn from, and Abhijit and Abhimanyu are certainly two such people that we can learn a lot from. Yeah, we've had a very slow 2020 with the advent of COVID and many other disheartening news, such as Sushant Singh's and Disha's death, along with another 14 people connected to him who died mysteriously. And along with this, his AI apps went missing, while some people who had absolutely no idea of what an AI app is started launching such apps overnight. Many other incidents like the Palghar lynching, the Hathras incident, and the present farmers' agitation have proved that politicians can be the worst enemies anyone can ever have. All three incidents were messages that the opposition was giving the present government under Narendra Modi. Yeah. Now moving on to both of you gentlemen, how do you both see 2020 and the year that has gone? Could you give us your opinions? Start with you, Abhijit.
Sure. Thanks for having me on, as always, Mira. For me, 2020 was literally the worst year I've ever had to live through. And given that I've been to jail, that's saying a lot. So, this is one of those things where, for me, there were a lot of standouts, other than the fact that we acted decisively for COVID. What we learned is that decisive is not always right either. Acting decisively without planning is never a good idea. We saw that with all the mass migration of people, the urban to rural migration and all of that. We got the worst of lockdown, and then we're getting the worst of unlock as well. Then we had the whole Galwan issue, which just shows you how abysmal the quality of newspaper standards is, that they're not even willing to spend $5 an image to satellite agencies to get imagery to verify what their reporters are saying. They don't even insist on clear parameters from their reporters, so they can basically go around blithering anything they like. So generally, in a very trashy profession, it was even by the normally trashy standards of journalism today, it was a particularly trashy year for journalism. The next particularly bad thing, of course, was for me personally was sorry, just getting something, was Trump losing. And that, well, for me, that was
Same thing for me, yes.
I took that personally.
Yeah. In fact, I was also quite depressed. Yes, Abhimanyu, can you tell your? Yeah.
Well, I think 2020 for me, when I look at it, it was is a huge churning year.
Yeah.
An year of evaluation, self-introspection, and a journey to know the reality of the two faces.
Yeah.
Because everybody was running before, and this year forced you to pause.
Yeah.
And the true faces of many people have come out. Even when you look at it from an external perspective of, say, this, strikes of farmer strike or whatever, you see that the true face comes out.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, for that, a huge churning is required.
Yeah.
We had to suffer for a period of time.
Yeah.
So I feel this year was a very beautiful, perspective from that, to look at life from a different perspective.
Yeah.
And to understand that there is much more than a normal rut which we are into.
Yes.
Secondly, I found that for me, it was a learning curve, huge, because I had to learn this new technology. People who have not touched computers and the social media, I think people became experts overnight. So you saw many newborn experts in different industry talking. And yes, if you talk about internationally, this COVID has also taught us like a family values which have come back, even though it is forced. And what I find is that I don't know how far it has seeped into the system of people, that once this vaccine comes out and all that, then what happens? Do we go back into the same style of working, or do we change our
Yeah.
approach towards life? I have a personal feeling that things won't be same
Mm.
even after vaccine comes back. I think the world has learned that they can do much more with less.
Mm.
So that learning cannot go waste.
Yeah.
Humankind is slow in learning, but not that
Yeah.
slow, I feel. So I
Yes.
hope that would be an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Well, let's go and we'll talk about Trump later on.
Yeah. 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 So this year, with the arrival of two vaccines against COVID, things look much brighter. The Serum Institute of India and Bharat Biotech, in a joint statement, have communicated their pledge towards a smooth rollout of COVID-19 vaccines to India and the world. According to the statement, SII Chief Adar Poonawalla and Bharat Biotech CEO and MD Dr. Krishna Ila, jointly on behalf of the two companies, communicated their combined intent to develop, manufacture, and supply the COVID 19 vaccines for India and abroad. They said that the more important task in front of them is saving the lives and livelihoods of populations in India and the world. Vaccines are a global public health good, and they have the power to save lives and accelerate the return to economic normalcy at the earliest. On a day when Bill Gates and the WHO chief praised India's COVID 19 vaccine, the Congress has targeted the center for approving Bharat Biotech's Covaxin vaccine in a haste. Senior party leader Manish Tiwari alleged that the BJP party is politically misusing the pandemic to consolidate its power and create an absolutely dictatorial situation in the country. Hitting back at the Congress, BJP's Sampit Patra said the grand old party always wants to indulge in low level politics. India's Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan called out opposition leaders for failing to applaud the country's prowess in locally producing a vaccine. India makes about 60% of vaccines globally. Members of the main opposition, Congress party, Shashi Tharoor and Jairam Ramesh, and former Chief Minister of UP State, Akhilesh Yadav, were among those who raised concern about the manner in which Covaxin was approved. Here, Abhimanyu, see, anything and everything that Narendra Modi does is always opposed to by the same group of people. Anything, but even the farmers' agitation, they are the ones who are behind it. Everybody knows it. So they never allowed the smooth functioning of a country. Something like coming out with two vaccines is such a it's good news for the country, and we should all be proud that we are one of the foremost countries in doing this. But still, there isn't there's always criticism. Abhijit, just coming back to the point that see with the introduction of the two vaccines, see India is proud that the vaccines have come out again, but the flack comes from Congress and Akhilesh Yadav types. And what they say is that see they don't they believe that it should be tested and before it's put out.
So,
Yeah,
so here's the thing. First
yeah,
is you're dealing with an emergency situation. So
yeah,
you've had to accelerate all your procedures. I mean, there's several parts to this argument. The second part is that, I think the government did slightly screw up out here, which is that there is still no clarity about that final, the third phase of testing that had to be done. And even the clarifications that have been put out have been so jumbled.
yeah,
It's been a bit problematic.
yeah,
That said, remember, emergencies require emergency measures, so this had to be
yeah,
I'm not complaining. I'm going to be in the very first batch of people that gets the thing done.
mm,
Now, you also have to see where the Congress and the SP are coming from. See, there's constructive criticism and then there's useless criticism.
yes,
Mulayam Singh Yadav's party has generally depended on the most obscurantist, other than Yadav's, it's depended on the most obscurantist Muslims to vote. The extremely violent thug gangster types.
yeah,
And the problem with that has always been that they've always been anti-vaxxers. Remember, even in Pakistan, the anti-vaccination lobby is run by these sort of nut job mullahs. So, he's also pandering to his own vote base to some extent, number
yeah,
one.
yeah,
And number two, uh, there's this sort of nihilism that keeps coming out of Rahul Gandhi, right? Which is, why not this? Why not that? Why not? There's never any suggestions or constructive solutions. And, I get the job of the opposition is to keep criticizing. The point is that at some point it just turns everybody off. And in this case, the criticism hasn't even been very intelligent. The third issue in all of this, in the criticism, other than the Mulayam camp of criticism and the Rahul Gandhi camp of criticism, is the problem is that the opposition has become so completely weak and irrelevant in the national discourse that they're just consumed by hatred for Modi, and they're refracting it onto private companies in India. They attack Ambani and Adani. Now they're attacking Adar Poonawalla and this biotech, the Krishna, I forget what his name is. Modi is not India and India is not Modi. You can't keep hitting your own companies and things like that in order to score political points with the prime minister. You want to go abuse the prime minister? Be my guest, do it. Do dharna outside his house, pelt a few stones outside his house, burn some buses outside his house. I don't care what you do, because look, monkeys behave like monkeys all the time. But at least grow some responsibility with regards to the country. Because nobody respects a nihilist opposition. They respect an opposition, not a nihilist party.
Right. Mr. Abhimanyu, could you tell us your thoughts?
See, I feel, when I look at it from outside, it's such a proud moment for India to have come out as the first leading manufacturers or approval of 2 vaccines, not 1. And internationally, you have a prime minister who is leading from front. And as Abhijit said, it is like a crisis movement. So obviously, you can't expect 100%, process cleaned up and then you start. You don't have that time. And the world is waiting for it. So nobody can say that, it's a foolproof mechanism that, we are working with. But at the same time, it is such a proud moment, really, when you feel it. I feel, as we used to talk about in value circles, that there are 2 kinds of character. One is an individual character, one is a national character. And to be a leader of any kind, one has to have both of these characters to be fulfilled. Unfortunately, today, national character has become really scarce. And individual character, I don't want to say much. Things keep coming out and we hide it. So we are in a place of vacuum, or like I said, black hole. And here comes person like Modi. And I'm not saying that the Modi sir is the only person in the world who can do that. But I would say, I would not even shy away in saying that he is a God-appointed person at this point of time. And he has justified his role in leading it from the front, catching the bull by the horn. It is not easy to do that thing with this multifaceted country and such a big country with such a variety of heads and states. So here he is leading it. In this, I think people should at least open their eyes and see it is when a recession is on, when COVID has hit the country, and here he's inaugurating and starting and showing so much expenditure. Where is the money coming from? And a simple question, like, you should intelligently think about it. A person is trying to do something good. So as an opposition, I feel that the definition which Congress thought process has created over the years, that opposition oppose. Like Lalu Prasad in his old times, he said that, why do I have 10 children? Because I was in opposition and Indira Gandhi announced family planning. So because he was in opposition, he produced children. It's such a dumb idea today to think of it also. Like, how can a person of such caliber be accepted as a leader? And that too, even to think of him as a national leader is sometimes shameful. Like, hello, where are we? But we had such kind of people and we were applauding them and saying, wow, he cracks good jokes. But the fact of the matter remains that if you look at the whole scenario, the environment was disturbed by saying politics, opposition means oppose. Don't think.
Yeah.
I wish they could learn that opposition means to monitor.
Yeah.
Opposition means to evaluate. Opposition means to be a watchdog
Yeah.
for the nation and let the whole nation work towards that. So a politician is not my boss. As they say, you're a government servant, for heaven's sake. So imagine the attitude of people, attitude of politicians must change. So when Mr. Modi says that in the public that I am your servant, people laugh at him and make a joke of it. But look at it. He is trying to bring us back into the old thought process. If, as I look at it from outside, I said, man, at least he has the guts to say that. He has got no arrogance to say that, I own the country.
Yeah.
He has kept his, if you look at the whole, so in this manner, when I look at it, I find people should support what is right.
Yeah.
And monitor the government if the implementation is wrong.
Yeah.
And kill him.
Yeah.
If the implementation is like Abhijit was saying that, yes, there are some flaws in implementation, I would say give an intelligent response. But rightly said, they have made a fool of themselves by unnecessary and very foolish oppositions. Like yesterday, that person says that I won't use it, a BJP vaccine. Like, are you out of mind? Like in one sentence, you have just killed all your reputation. Where are you?
Yeah.
It is not BJP creating a vaccine, for heaven's sake.
Yeah.
And it is not some ordinary process that you can make it in the home and then start distributing. Do you have any clue how much it takes to generate this?
Yeah.
And even under political pressures, these people have to go through so many, trials and tribulations to arrive there. And he makes a very stupid, and he doesn't, I don't think even he realizes that how ignorant and absurd it sounds
They come across.
to hear from an ex-chief minister of a biggest state of India.
State in India, yeah.
Were we on high or something to vote him? I don't know what people were. Like, sometimes you think about it, like, what is wrong with us?
Yeah.
This is
So,
right up there with, remember that comment when the Nirbhaya rape happened in Delhi?
Yeah.
This is right there with that Haryana Sarpanch saying our boys rape because they're eating too much chow mein and other spicy foreign foods.
Yeah.
It's just that bad. It is insensitive. We have lost close to more than 1.5 lakh people. And to say it's a BJP vaccine, I mean, come along, man.
Yeah.
Let's audit this. An opposition should audit, and it should audit carefully.
Yeah.
And when opposition lacks credibility, it should shut up. Remember, Sonia Gandhi won back power in 2004 simply by keeping quiet. She never opened her mouth for that entire 4-5 years that she was in opposition. She made 1 or 2 statements, and that was it. And she never, opened her mouth too much and betrayed how stupid she was. She isn't, but Rahul unfortunately is. So, he probably shouldn't be opening his mouth as much as he does. But let's audit what happened in COVID. First, you didn't think through the secondary and tertiary effects of lockdown. You announced it too fast. You created a lot of issues with, without planning things out properly. This is, of course, happening with all policy in India. It's never particularly planned. There's something called second order policy effect and third order policy effect. The jhatka is what happens to
I think Abhijit, your
his internet is fluctuating there.
Yeah. Viewers, we'll just move on to Abhimanyu Kaul. Yeah. And wait for.
I
sorry.
Would go with that. Yeah, sure. Abhijit is back. Yes.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So what happens is, but we should recognize that lockdown was successful in the initial weeks in spite of everything. And we had started flattening the curve till the whole Tablighi Jamaat episode happened. And at that point, instead of crack down on that, as they should have, they did not. I think they were too lax in the way they cracked down on the Tablighi Jamaat. The warning signs had been available for a whole month prior to that. They did nothing. Okay, theek hai, jo hua so hua. But then what you have to do is to recalibrate your policy. You see that now it's become a super spreader event and the initial lockdown plan can't work. So what do you do then?
Yeah.
Do you then, and remember, there were always two options available to you. One was a complete lockdown like in Italy, but by this time we'd also seen that the Swedes had gone on their mass infection approach, right? So that was also an option available to you. I think there's two problems here. One is that we don't see policy as sequential. We only look at the Jhatka effect, not what happens 3-4 months down the line, and then 5-6 years down the line, number one. And number two, we make policy in silos. For example, working in defense, I can tell you, most defense strategists in this country and most people working in the defense ministry, they don't have the first clue of economics or industrial supply chains. So, you make defense policy as if you're living in Germany, whereas your industrial base is more like Rwanda or Burundi. Okay. So, of course, I'm exaggerating a bit, but you've got to drive home the point sometime. So, this siloization of policy is very problematic. And this whole thing about, not looking through the downstream consequences of policy is also quite problematic.
This person is asking a question, the Litz man. Do you feel everyone should get the vaccine or only limit it to the elderly, morbid and frontline workers and expect the rest to naturally kick in? Abhimanyu?
No, I think everybody has to get it. But the only thing is sequence, it's an order of preference. Obviously, they have to give it to the first line workers and medical plus. So it'll go. But everybody has to get it. See, Mira, I don't I refrain myself mostly to talk about or comment on anything which is not open in public domain. I don't shy in saying that I support Modi, and but at the same time, I'm not a blind follower of BJP or anything like that. By the same token, I feel there is so many layers to politics that an ordinary person may never know the truth of happenings. And there are so many permutations. That's why they say in politics you cannot trust anybody. Today they are fighting against each other. Tomorrow they can shake hands. But why do they shake hands and why do they fight? It was purely political. I wish that was for national interest. Then people won't mind.
Exactly.
And to an extent, what I look at, what I evaluate from, as you know, I'm a Canadian citizen for that matter, but my heart is still and remains Indian, and I can't change that. People know that very well. But at the same, when I look at it from that passion, that what builds up India, I find there is genuineness in this government under the leadership of Mr. Modi, and I see that very honestly, that they're trying very well. Why they can't implement, as Abhijit was pointing out, yes, there are every plan they have implemented. You find that I wish they had paused, thought through, then implemented. It's always a second thought like, hey, why couldn't you think? It was very simple, logical, but you find that they are missing it out. And you wonder why. And I don't know. I just can't answer that why. Because you have intelligent people there. If you had duffers like others, then you would say that, okay, I know he will make a mistake. But here you have people who have credentials, who have shown that they have thought through. And when they slip out, then you wonder, like, why did BJP miss it? Why did Modi not see it? Why did Amit Shah? Because they are the people whom we really look up now and then say, you can't make this stupid mistake. But then you see that they slipped. So you wonder, like, okay, give them benefit of doubt that maybe they know better. But as Abhijit said, it's right. You cannot. But as an opposition, I wish they would do this job of highlighting those deficiencies rather than saying the damn plan is wrong, vaccine is bad, farmers' bills are wrong. That is very stupid. But if you come back and point BJP that look, you missed out this point, then it's a healthy debate. Then we'll learn together, and then people will gain back that trust that yes, this opposition has some sense. They are not sitting there just because of something other than brains. So I don't know. So I feel that is the missing link there, and I totally agree with Abhijit. You feel sometimes like, why did they miss it? Well, as a layman, we can see through.
Yeah. I think this is a very important point that Kaulji raised, which is, the intent is good,
Mm.
right? The execution leaves a lot to be desired.
Exactly.
And I think the problem is the complete lack of accountability out here, that, you don't have an audit of your own actions. I think that's because the opposition is so acrimonious. It's like trapping, when you want to kill a deer or a rabbit, you trap them at night between headlights. That's
Very
when you
much.
shoot the deer or the rabbit. It's
Mhm.
like that. They're trapped in these headlights and they're like, we don't know what to do now. And then, it becomes this defensiveness, this churlishness.
Absolutely.
And then we're never going to admit we got it wrong.
Yeah.
And that's never the way an opposition should be. But look, I mean, oppositions are like that throughout the world. We're not
Yeah.
throughout the world. You've got smart oppositions that put the government, that try to um, spotlight the government. Here we've got a very dumb opposition that's succeeding quite well at doing that to the government. So the point is, good intentions don't compensate for government clumsiness, because like they say, the path to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah.
So right now we've got a choice between a terrible government
Mm.
and an opposition that looks like it was born out of the deepest recesses of hell. Right? So it's a choice between bad and patal lok.
But Abhijit, if you really look at it, just benefit of doubt for our present government. If I look at it, the achievements which this government has able to accomplish, like being a Kashmiri, I can tell you, abolition of 370 was an unimaginable dream. Not even as a Kashmiri Brahmin Pandit, I can tell you, we could never imagine in our wildest dream that that would be a possibility. And that happened. Like that Ram Janambhoomi. See, these are not small events. And you know very well, there is a lot of things to be done behind the scene to reach that spot at that moment and say, hey, it's done.
Yeah.
It is not that that day they woke up in the morning and parliament, they get out everybody and said 370 abolished. It was a brain of work of years with so many people sacrifices.
Yeah.
And to have that intent, that is where I said I would give benefit of doubt to them, because when I see the execution, what they have arrived at, what they have achieved so far, from a bullock cart state to a bullet train stage, from accomplishing satellites, we have our own things. When you think of it, then you wonder like, hey, it is not a small achievement. Yes, with the same people, as Mr. Modi also keeps shouting from the top of the Red Fort, that same people, I have not changed anybody. I think that was a mistake also in a way, because that dragged him.
Yeah.
That actually spoiled. I don't know why he takes those challenges, which is something weird. I would personally feel sometimes fire, get a new people and sort it out.
Yeah.
But no, you have to carry the baggage. But that is not easy. For such activity and such action, one needs a strong sense of self-confidence and clarity of the vision, what you want to achieve.
Yeah.
Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. These slogans are not easy to carry. Now imagine your whole Bengal is deprived of all the benefits of the government just because you don't like somebody's face.
Yeah.
You understand? So these are which I feel sometimes like it is a total, in one line I would say it's a moral degradation. It is like corruption. We have really a huge vacuum of value system here.
Yeah.
So what can you expect? But yes, I see a positive future. I see something very beautiful India. I see positivity. If it continues like that, I hope, I only keep praying that it should keep moving. I wish, but I feel at the same note, I would tell you, I feel we need an opposition. We need a very healthy and intelligent opposition.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can't have one person running the country, because people, the power will get into their heads, and it has got into heads many times. So you need that oppositions to rein them, to in this, not oppose them, but to monitor them. That we need it. This country certainly needs a strong opposition, an intelligent one.
Yeah.
I wish they could enforce a law, Abhijit. What do you think? They are not able to put that law, minimum qualification for politicians, certain criteria
That
for
was the
politicians.
question. That was the
if
question. Yeah.
if they made that law, I'm afraid that including our prime minister, most of the cabinet would be disqualified except Nitin Gadkari, probably. Nitin Gadkari and a few other ministers here and there. All the rest of them would be disqualified. See, my issue here is, let me tell you, because I spent some of my childhood in Kashmir. I studied there in Srinagar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, uh, I can tell you, when 370 happened, I was literally sitting and crying in my house that, we never even thought it was possible it could happen. And it happened. And then in September, which was about a month after it got abrogated, I went there for about 2 weeks on the ground. And I was looking at how things were panning out there. And you could see a lot of danger signs cropping up. Because, a conflict economy is very different from a regular economy. It's where all sides are incentivized in the conflict continuing, including the army, the CRPF, the BSF, and all of that. Because, army promotions are based on encounters. The politicians' income, half of them is based on hate mongering and stone pelting and la-di-da. The rest of them live off the corruption that thrives because you don't have accountability in a terror-ridden state like that, so on and so forth. There has been no attempt, zero, to deconflict the economy. The sources of black money in Kashmir, there are two sources that we could clearly identify. One was the construction business, which was actually mentioned in Parliament. The price of cement in Kashmir. That's one of the ways that money gets scammed through the system. They've done nothing about it. The second one is students going off to Bangladesh to study. The students going abroad specifically to study medicine in Bangladesh. You see, you open up any Kashmir newspaper, there'll be at least 50 ads on any given day for going study medicine in Bangladesh. That is the second route, for money laundering and things like that. That has been dealt with. There are so many things. The entire system out there. Farooq Abdullah introduced this program called Rehbar A something, which was basically to get all these Jamaat-e Islami fellows into school teacher positions. So, when Barkha Dutt says son of a headmaster or a son of a school teacher, I don't think she realized how potent that statement was, because she basically indicted the father saying that you're a Jamaat-e Islami terrorist.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think she realized she said that, but anybody who knew about that Rehbar program that Farooq Abdullah had introduced, which went completely crazy under Mehbooba Mufti, because remember, Mehbooba Mufti is, the PDP is to the Hizbul Mujahideen what the Sinn Féin was to the IRA. Okay, one is the political wing, one is the military wing. Think of it this way. Unlike the IRA Sinn Féin, the PDP Hizbul Mujahideen is a threefold entity. You have the Hizbul Mujahideen, which is the Pakistan-based terror wing. You have the Jamaat-e Islami, which is the Kashmir-based so-called educational and social wing. And then you have the PDP. Remember, this Mufti who founded it, he had no real ground support. It was all co-opting in the Jamaat-e Islami and their cadres and people who thought like them that swelled the ranks of the PDP. This was migration from the National Conference, right? So, and this goes back to the Sher Bakra riots and things like that that used to happen quite some time back. So that's a different analogy. That had more to do, I think, with the Mirwez's father, if I'm not mistaken. But, there's been a whole setup like this, which they haven't thought through. They thought through कि 370 जाएगा. But उसके बाद क्या होगा नहीं सोचा है. The point was that you had to allow a whole new breed of grassroots leaders to grow. They did not do that. When I was going around Kashmir in September, not this September, the previous September 2019, what we were noticing was, because all the shops were not shuttered, they were all kind of partially open at the bottom. So you had to silently sell. The closer they were to a CRPF picket with a machine gun, the shops would be open full. And the further away from the CRPF picket you got, the opening in the shop would be smaller and smaller and smaller. So people actually felt safe with the CRPF around, number one.
Yes.
Number two, I went and spoke to some of them. Of course, most of them were quite hostile. We shouldn't interpret this to say that they love us. But when we were going and talking to them, a lot of them were scared, saying, देखिए आप तो एक महीने में चले जाओगे, ये CRPF picket हट जाएगा. But उसके बाद these national conference goons and the PDP goons, they're keeping note of who opened the shop and shut the shop. You won't be here for 2-3 years to protect us, and then they will come and beat us up. They'll or they'll kill and rape our daughters or something like that. What are you going to do then? Right? You've seen the kind of abysmal security. The son of a martyr who got first residency permit in Kashmir was killed off by militants. This happened just 3-4 days back.
Yeah.
Right. It's so there is a point where good intention can't be forgiven. You have to be held to account and criticized harshly for incompetence. And I think the problem why this government seems to get away is that nobody holds it accountable for the mistakes it makes. They keep holding it accountable for every other thing. Why did that comet crash into Saturn? Why did it not come to Earth? This is also an RSS conspiracy. I'm exaggerating, of course. But, it is never justified criticism. It is never informed criticism.
Yes.
The criticizers are the biggest jokes around that you can find. And the criticism is enough to turn you against the criticizers. I keep criticizing Modi. I don't like the man. I can't stand him. I keep criticizing him. The point is, I feel it's my prerogative to criticize him. The moment you have somebody in the Congress criticize him, I'll go jump to his defense. Right? I don't think the Congress understands it's having that effect. This time in the elections in 2019, I did not want to vote for the BJP. I went and I searched for the DMK sign because the DMK, my constituency is Mylapore in Madras. So I'm searching for the DMK sign. And every time I went to push that button, I went on seeing Rahul Gandhi's face blinking out there. I was like, you know what? I just cannot vote for this guy. And so I voted for ADMK BJP alliance. I don't think these guys realize the more Rahul opens his mouth, every time he opens his mouth, the BJP gains 20,000 new voters.
Ned is saying we can understand Rahul Gandhi talking nonsense, but a person like Shashi Tharoor talking like Rahul can't understand. If it is to impress Sonia Party, has not given him any position either.
See, you have to understand. I think there's a very good explanation for this. Shashi Tharoor and co have to play to the gallery. Otherwise, they have absolutely no a future in the party.
Yeah.
Right. This is a party that expects you to say, if the clown prince says that the sun rises in the west, everybody else will have to say, sir, you are so right. The sun rises in the west. I think you can be kind of, I don't know, should you be grateful to Shashi Tharoor or criticize him even more? Because he will say, see, Rahul thinks out of the box. So, he was actually looking at it from a north-south axis. We keep talking about a north-centric policy, that the world, that it is the global north that makes policy. He was looking at an upside-down map of the world, and he looked at west from there, which was actually east. So it was a south-focused policy. This is actually an intellectual way of whitewashing it, which is what Shashi Tharoor tries to do.
Yeah.
But I think, even in his case, I think he's sometimes carried away by his own glibness and is too smart by half sometimes.
Yes, and sometimes by other factors as well.
Mind you, I have to say this. I have met Congress leaders are some of the smartest people I know. Okay, they would make most of. I think I can tell you a few Congress leaders whose individual IQs might be more than the entire current union cabinet combined. The problem is that they can never shine through because it was always the third rater who bears the family name, the Gandhi name, will be projected over them. So imagine you're in a party where you're a first rater, but you're always subordinate to a third rater.
Is Pilot one of them?
No.
Okay, moving to another point. The second point is about our temples being desecrated in a targeted manner in Andhra Pradesh. Jagan's cops arrest Andhra BJP chief, block party leaders for protesting temple vandalism. The Andhra Pradesh police on
Meena,
Tuesday.
just
Yeah.
before you go into this topic, I
Yes.
just wanted to
Yeah.
add a thought which Abhijit was
Absolutely.
telling about.
Absolutely. Yeah.
He was talking about, like how the
Yeah.
government has not responded in proactive manner for certain points.
Yeah.
And that is where I was telling
Mm.
that a common man can never understand or get a full perspective what a leader has or what they are in privy to, the information.
Yeah.
Now, for example, I'll tell you the reason. I'll give one example just to put that point across. The similar farmers had happened Indira Gandhi time when she ordered firing, and in one day it was all done. 75 odd people died, and whole the whole protest was gone. It was cleaned up.
Yeah.
Modi could have done the same, and because he had a valid point, it is a very, he has done everything in a legalized manner. There is nothing. He could have said you are unnecessary spoiling. He could have got the permission and cleaned it up.
Yeah.
He didn't do.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's not only a shortcut process which Indira Gandhi did, but it leads to an undemocratic process in the future.
Yeah.
It leads a lack of it erodes the democratic values of the country, which happened because of that one decision. And look at the contrast which this government did. It is risky what he did. He dragged it. He made all his ministerial people to go out and
Yes,
talk
it is.
around the
Yeah.
country. He himself opened the channel. So today nobody can say that the government is not talking. And what has happened in these 8 talks, whatever results came out, that is separate. But what important thing happened is they got exposed. We found so many fake farmers sitting there. We
Absolutely.
found so many, dummies there. So
Yeah.
how it happens is because people, unfortunately, we don't have information privy straight away, and our
Yeah.
so-called mainstream media
Mm.
does not show that and does not have intelligent discussions there. You
Yeah.
have either screaming going on or you have some biased presentation in which the
Yeah.
camera swings only to that extent. So
Yeah.
thanks to the social media, we are at least getting some good information out and knowing exactly what is happening.
Mm.
And today, everybody knows that what the farmers' laws are all about and why they were against and what is the mandi system. And because it's like you have to first teach also, educate people that
Yeah.
what is mandi system, who are
Yeah.
these middlemen who are gathering everything, and why are they objecting?
Mm.
How can a dumb farmer be like, poor farmer be on a Mercedes Benz tractor? So these are something which have come out, but it has taken time.
Yeah.
So that is why I feel sometimes I said, no, man, you can make a mistake. I'm not saying nobody can make a mistake, but the fact is you can't make this stupid mistake. So if you are delaying, I would give benefit of doubt to Modi and team only for that reason, as long as he is looking for country, as long as we see that ultimate benefit, if he's working for, is for country. Today, I don't see that the corruption has disappeared from India. That will be a far-fetched dream. But you can say very confidently that at least on the top, there is no corruption. Modi does not take a penny. That we can boldly say. And that
100%.
even the international body has accepted, well, buddy, you can't touch that person. That belt you can't touch. Bottom, yes, it is still stinking. And that will take time. It is not easy to clean the whole, your whole sewage system in 1 year. 70 years of blockage it is.
Yeah.
I think it has become hard there now. So you just can't put a like flush of water. It needs something more heavy to clean it up. But at least it has started seeping in. At least in the name of him, people will say, okay, at least I know if I need a central approval, that is much easier than a state approval. And
Yeah.
that is much easier than a sarpanch approval, because
Yeah.
things have not trickled. That is accepted.
Yeah.
But look at that. That's why I always give that benefit only for one condition, as long as you keep the country's interest in the front. As long as, and now there is a base you are creating. Imagine how many poor people today can dignifiedly live under a roof. They have a toilet to go to. These are not small things a PM to say from a portal of Lal Killa that I'll provide toilets.
Hmm.
People laughed at him, and we also wondered, like, is that the thing of PM to say? But then you realize, man, after 70 years, we still have a problem. People don't have it. So we are lacking basic amenities of life. And today, when when he spoke about that new construction, I always, every year, I used to come back and I wonder, like, why we are building concrete houses even in mountains.
Yeah.
Where has the technology gone? When I used to see in Kashmir, mud houses.
Yeah.
I mean, it never fell. It had 4 stories houses, man. And we had earthquakes there. We had weather, like crazy weather. But why didn't that fall for 100 years? Why the hell do you need a concrete house? And today they have made concrete houses with marbles, and now they are using air condition in Kashmir. Can you believe that? So we are messing up. And today, when I heard Prime Minister say that I have made these models, now go engineering college and pick up that, study that, and create indigenous matter. Well, that is something phenomenal. It is sorry that after 75 years, we are talking about basics, which is so common in the Western country. But hello, we have to take the first step somewhere. So my only presentation is that, as long as he keeps the country in front, the world is with him.
Yeah.
But the day they slip, and that is what happens now to the BJP also, because not everybody in the same alignment.
Yeah.
So when anybody fluctuates, people just eat him alive. And that is what is happening to the down level. So I hope it will trickle down and people will start getting awareness that they need to have that character to stay there. You want to make money. Before, we used to joke. You remember, we used to always have a joke. If a government sends like 100 rupees to the laborer, 1 rupee if it reaches, thank God. So it was that condition. And then we have this Commonwealth Games, when we got the real story out and realized, oh my God, a 15 rupee thing was sold for 1,000 rupees, and still the thing broke off. Even a toilet paper and that soap boxes, they were sold for 1,000 rupees, which are sold in 75 rupees in a bulk market.
Yeah.
So this information came out. It was on the paper. It was everywhere. So imagine the amount of corrupted mind and corrupted system that we have to fight for. And in that, these priorities make a difference. So I feel it is a matter of priority.
Yeah.
That you choose your battles. Okay, what is important for me? How do if I have to kill 370 from Kashmir, is it important for me to run after construction material or run after stone pelters? Or take care of the borders? See, these are all priorities. And I find in this government, they have fought in most of the battles at the same front. He has not taken only one area. You take to him about education, about infrastructure, about international management. Like yes, economic policies still we are failing. We have not yet, reached. I'm sure Abhijit can throw more light on that. But yes, that is one area which has pinched everybody, and still it is pinching from domestically. And I'm still surprised, as I said to you, like I'm surprised at these misses, that why would a government of this caliber not able to handle that aspect and give the right importance to the economic fallout which this country is going through. People blame the finance minister. I don't know,
In fact, Abhimanyu, even in what we realized in Jan Aushadh is that the medicines we are getting it at such a low cost. The same medicines, only thing is, in certain cases, the packaging is not done very well. Otherwise, it's really good because it cuts our cost into half.
Maybe even US and in Canada, you have pharmacies. Every pharmacy there has a non-branded, if I may put it, which they manufacture themselves. So you have an option to buy a branded medicine or a non-branded medicine.
Absolutely.
And the price will be almost 1/3.
Yeah.
So that is why I said to you that we are 75 years late.
Yeah.
but at least we have to make a beginning somewhere.
Yeah.
So instead of criticizing and saying that these medicines should not be there, support and understand that yes, if you are caring for a branded medicine, go for it.
Yeah.
But if you cannot afford it, that doesn't mean you die.
Yeah.
Here is your alternative, and this alternative is equally accountable. Now, the opposition, if I was in opposition, I would be looking for the reason to see that is the medicine properly verified? Is
Yeah.
the medicine clean? Do we have any casualties based on medicine? Well, then catch the government and catch everybody who has created those medicines.
Yeah.
But to say that the alternate medicines should not be, that is foolish.
Yeah.
That is immoral.
Yeah.
That is why I said we are 75 years late, but
Yeah.
better late than never. So
Yeah.
I have seen that it's happening. It's everywhere in the world. It's
Yeah.
nothing new to have alternate medicine and non-branded brands. Everywhere you have it.
Yeah.
But we have to grow up to accept it and then
Yeah.
monitor them. Create laws which can punish people who slip.
Yeah.
If one person also dies, you should catch
Yeah.
and punish, create laws like that. But you cannot just stop the process. That is my fault, that nothing else. So that is where I come from.
Yeah. The second point, again, as I was speaking, is about Andhra Pradesh, is about our temples being desecrated in a targeted manner in Andhra Pradesh. Jagan's cops arrested Andhra BJP chief, bloc party leaders from protesting against temple vandalism. The Andhra Pradesh police on Tuesday put several BJP and Janasena leaders under house arrest, ahead of their yatra against attacks on Hindu temples in the state. The Andhra Pradesh police also said, the arrest was ahead of their Ram Tirtham Dam Yatra against the alleged attacks on Hindu temples. BJP state president Somu Viraju, who was heading to Vizianagaram, was arrested in Vizag by the police. Earlier on Monday, BJP Andhra Pradesh state co-in-charge Sunil Diodhar slammed the state government for a series of incidents of alleged attacks on temples and demanded the resignation of Endowments Minister Velampalli Srinivasa Rao. Yet another shocking incident took place in Vijayawada today. A 40-year-old Sita Mata idol was vandalized by anti-Hindu forces. On December 28th, a 400-year-old idol was vandalized. Why is Chief Minister Jagan Mohan Reddy not doing anything? Law and order is a state subject. If he's not able to handle it, then he should step down, Diodhar said in a recorded video message. In 1.5 years of Jagan's rule, more than 150 temples or idols or symbols have been burnt or destroyed. Why is there state-sponsored such activities happening, he added. The idol of Lord Ram was allegedly desecrated at Ram Tirtham in Vizianagaram district on December 29th, following which a group of BJP workers staged a protest on the temple premises. Abhijit, see, a lot of these events, such events are happening, and he just doesn't do anything about it, the Chief Minister. What is it? Is he trying to completely Christianize Andhra Pradesh? What is he doing?
Andhra is getting what it voted for. You voted for Jagan. Enjoy Jagan. Enjoy yourselves. I used to feel quite ashamed coming from a state that had such a vitriolic anti-Hindu, anti-Brahmin, racist, outright racism.
Yeah.
But when I look back now, I see Tamil Nadu is tame compared to what's going on in Andhra. But this is their comeuppance. I don't know why they thought YSR would be any different from his father. The father was vitriolically anti-Hindu. You know that, right? He tried all kinds with the Tirupati temple and all of that. And we were always told that Andhra was a state where you didn't mess around with their religion. They took it very seriously. But if this is what the heirs of Krishnadeva Raya have become, then best of luck to you. YSR deserves Andhra. Andhra deserves YSR. Congratulations. Zero sympathy.
Yeah. And a lot of the people tweet to him as well, but he just remains quiet. He's not bothered. So it's very...
Why should he care? Twitter isn't real life. Elections aren't decided on Twitter. Rahul Gandhi thinks elections are decided on Twitter. I don't think anybody else does. So it's fine. I don't see any particular act of misgovernance by him, and as long as his government goes on fine, they can continue this active assault on Hindu institutions and an active assault on Hinduism per se. Massive subsidies to Christian pilgrimage and this and that and whatnot nonsense. The whole air of permissiveness. See, the point is, if you make the case that somehow the BJP coming into power at the center has given an air of permissiveness to vigilantes who want to carry out cow lynchings, then the same has to be applied to Andhra, where you say that the election of a Christian fundamentalist has given an air of permissiveness to the destruction of Hindu temple idols. But the Andhra people voted for this.
Yes.
So best of luck to you. Best of luck to your temples. I have zero sympathy for you. I have zero sympathy for your temples. I'm not even shedding a single drop. You got what you deserved.
I think we can even, I just wanted to share that, the word secular, this insertion which happened later on, and all of you know the history. I feel the essence is in Hinduism.
Yeah.
What we call Sanatan Dharam, it is the only faith in the world which has verbalized about acceptance of everybody as one.
Yeah.
So by default, if at all, and as they call it Hindu Rashtra, which they are worried about, that should not happen, the concept of Hindu Rashtra actually is a secular state.
Yeah.
Because by default of understanding, people don't understand that fact, that in Vedic culture, which is beyond all the religions, the thought of oneness, the thought of unity was the premise, the basis, the foundation of the whole thing.
Yeah.
So what we call Hinduism, or what we call Sanatan philosophy, is by default a secular state.
Yeah.
Bringing in that thought, that word into the system was actually to destroy that essence, to disturb that, the sanctity of the life. And now with that, they are trying to play with the minds of people and saying that, we have to save something from some unknown threat.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, this has triggered for over the years a big gap, between sects and communities. And we can go back into history to identify the faults, but the fact is today, I think we have reached a stage wherein an intelligent discussion and understanding can and should be brought forth to understand what is actually required for our country. If it is an Hindu Rashtra, it is not about the religious fanaticism.
Yeah.
Yes, as Abhijit was pointing out, that cow vigilantes, people who try to kill people, who see there's an extreme stance they take because they feel that, okay, we should not touch the cows in that manner. See, that is also wrong, because you are now pushing the extremeness here. And whenever there is an extreme, you have to be ready for the other extreme also. But the fact is, respecting animals and respecting and emotions and sentiments of our community is also part of nationalism. So if people do not understand that, it is something like, you don't believe in what you call idol worship. That's fair. But imagine somebody coming and taking your father's picture off your wall and stamping it. How would you tolerate it?
Yeah.
So it is a picture. Why do you worry?
Yeah.
So picture has a sentiment. Otherwise, it's just a paper.
Yeah.
Similarly, the idols and all have sentiments. You may have a writing on the wall, or you may have a picture on the wall. It is a personal sentiment. So people have to realize that these are all political gimmicks, unfortunately, which has led, and this repercussions will be heavy, because you cannot help it. We have extremes in the society. So now if somebody has broken my temple, somebody will wake up to say that I cannot tolerate. It is very hard to convince people that both extreme actions are not correct way of moving.
Yeah.
But as I think Abhijit was saying that you got what you deserve, well,
Yeah.
that is like a saying too harsh. I think he wanted to say it on the face. But yes, unfortunately, people today need that experience, the negative experience, to realize the mistakes they have committed. I only pray that it is not too late for a country. Like we have suffered enough. To recovery takes much time.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure even if tomorrow Bengal is revived or today Kashmir is revived, revival is not easy. And the change which we have seen in last 6 to 8 months now, 1 year now,
Mm,
and that is also remarkable. I didn't expect that fast.
mm,
Honestly speaking, I was hoping that the election should not happen, let them drag on like that and fix the things.
mm,
But it is an amazing recovery. 50% BJP is in.
mm,
That is not ordinary change.
mm.
That shows that the country has matured underneath.
Yes.
The people have grown, people have started seeing things through,
Mm,
which is another mature sign. So from my perspective, I feel that it is not easy for an ordinary person to make assessment unless you are put in a spot. So unless the election would have happened, we would never have understood how deep this message has gone, how
yeah.
much transformation has already happened, how the message is percolating. So that is why I said it is not easy to say why they didn't do that. Why did they this? Why they miss out? Because I am a very ordinary person sitting somewhere in the world. I don't have access to all the real information.
Yeah.
So if having access and still not doing it,
Mm,
we have to wonder like why that slip, or
yeah.
is it a conscious slip or not?
Yeah.
So that is what I feel that is change.
Yeah. Moving on to the US politics, US elections. Trump alleged recently that the last month's US presidential election was rigged in favor of his Democratic opponent, Joe Biden, who is now the president elect. They cheated and they rigged our presidential election, and they're going to try to rig this election. Trump told his cheering supporters at a rally in Georgia, where he campaigned for his Republican candidates for the special senatorial elections. He also said, "We will not bend, we will not break, we will not yield, we will never give in, we will never give up, we'll never back down, we'll never ever surrender." With mounting desperation, Donald Trump declared on Monday night that he would fight like hell to hold on to the presidency and appealed to Republican lawmakers to reverse his election loss to Joe Biden when they convened this week to confirm the electoral college vote. Biden took his verbal shots at Trump, lambasting the god awful effort the outgoing administration has made in getting the COVID-19 vaccine out to states and into the arms of the public. But the only reference Biden made to the stunning hour-long phone call Trump made to Georgia's Secretary of State was bafflement that Trump was still trying to stay in office if he didn't want to do the job of a president. What's happening in USA, Abhijit? People are all curious because Trump keeps speaking, and basically, I also hope that Trump would return. Tell me your views.
Look, I think he's setting this up for a second run in 2024 or whenever it happens, because he lost the election. Let's be absolutely clear. And Republicans are the ones that keep talking about states' rights and things like that.
Yeah.
And now he's the one that doesn't want to accept the state's right to determine who will represent it in the electoral college. Yes, they all have screwed up laws. They all are extremely prone to manipulation and fraud.
Yeah.
In this case, the the mail-in ballot was a complete sham. But the law is what it is. If the state Supreme Courts accept it, that's the end of the story, right? Now, there are several other things. Vice President Pence can refuse to certify the results. I don't think he'll do that, but he can. The states can refuse to certify the results, which is, I think, what he's trying to do. I think this will depend very much on the Senate and where the Senate stands. because right now there's an election in Georgia that's going to decide which way the Senate goes, and that will determine what happens. Though I suspect the mood will be that even if somebody refuses to certify it, I don't know the exact process, but I think it requires a supermajority to overcome it. I think he will. The Democrats will get that supermajority to validate the results, because let's face it, Biden has won. No country is going to allow a legislative veto over a popular election result. That's simply not going to happen. But that's what's happening out in America. And let's be very clear, had it not been for COVID and the ways in which the Democrats themselves, remember, it was the Democrat states that had the worst responses to COVID. Maximum number of people died in Democrat states, right? So, and who was running point for Trump on this? Dr. Fauci, who is a known libtard. He's great friends with that fellow Cuomo's. He's a family friend of the Cuomo's, So it's very curious that instead of draining the swamp, Trump actually put the swamp in charge of the COVID response. So best of luck. I mean, this is what happens. And, this is going to be comeback for Modi, because he's got so many Congress fifth columns working for him. At some point, they're going to pull off a Dr. Fauci on Modi.
There is a fear of that. But if I tell you that in America, when I was talking to some locals, I realized that they have a feeling that because of Trump's actions, he sounds very racist. And he has divided country into two: whites and non-whites. Americans, so-called white Americans, and others. So that has been the biggest, the sore thing for the Americans per se, who feel that he has divided the country into this way in a racism, and he has increased the racism in the country. But when you look at it from outside, obviously, I find it's surprising that it's only Trump who has been, I think, the second president in the whole history who never had any war. In fact, he de-escalated the whole thing, and he did something which nobody else could imagine: a peace deal between Saudi and Israel. So I think he was most eligible for peace prize. Obama did war and he got a peace prize, and he actually went against the war, and he's thrown out. So that's why I said to that when I look at it from that perspective, it is perception which rules. So if your perception is racism, if your perception is that he's an outspoken guy, he's got no brains, he talks differently, then that perception carries. But if I look at the voting, as you can see that it is actually 50-50. The American system is that if you win a state, everything goes to that winning party, and that is how they decide it. But if you look at the vote percentage, I feel it is almost 50. So it is not that Trump has really lost. But yes, from their political scenario, he has lost in that way. But what he's doing is very legal. That's why they can't touch him right now, till now. Because if he's sticking on there, he has some legal loopholes based on which he's doing it. But again, it is a call how far you want to do that, and what is your ultimate goal of doing it. Can you ever get it back, which is very difficult, because now the things have really started changing there. How Biden will be for India or for everything, that is a big question mark. Personally, I also feel there is, because the statements he has made in the past, and statements which his vice president has made, so those statements are not very, what should I say, very encouraging in that manner. So you feel that yes, there could be some challenges, but the way our country has been growing today, and the way we have been able to manage our economy, the way we are able to bring in the businesses and increase the economic power, I don't think any country in the world can afford to neglect or overlook India. So even if as Abhijit was pointing, there is a probability of that fear,
Yeah.
when this college comes in and what they do.
Yeah.
But I feel if India remains in this trend,
Mm.
then they can't help but collaborate, because ultimately money speaks for them. Americans, their backbone is finance.
Exactly.
So if they see financial sense, they will not go against anybody. But
Yeah.
yes, it is a worth watching. America is a big country and it's a very important country in the world. So it does impact what happens in our domestic market too.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. Abhimanyu, do you think in 20 this year, Indian economy will bounce back?
personally, I feel it should, and things have already started looking up.
Mm.
So, but the way it will bounce back could be worth watching. But yes, from I think it is very positive.
Yeah.
It will come back. How much I can't. Like somebody was making a prediction of 10% and all that. I think
Mm.
that is a little bit too far fetched. But
Yeah. Mm.
but still, I think there is a huge every possibility, because the groundwork is done. I
Mm.
feel uh, there is a lot of potential. It should.
Yeah.
Pakistan, is it worth sharing your thoughts on that, brother? Well, Pakistan needs an hard, personally, this hard stand is important. But sometimes you find, there is a slight slackness. But the way our armed forces have been moving and the way economically we have cornered Pakistan,
Yeah.
that's why the frustration in Pakistan is they are burning down temples now, they are breaking down. What else can they do?
Yeah.
In Hindi say they khisiani billi khamba noche. So I think they are just what they can do. So they
Yeah.
have to abuse whatever little they have left with the minority community. But it is
Yeah.
unfortunate.
Yeah. Priyadarshi Sharma says Trump will come back in 2024 and wipe out the Democrats. Biden would knock out in 2 years and Harris would take over. And the last thing white Americans want to see is a black woman as the president.
No comments.
No, I'm
I
telling
don't
you,
know.
you already got your first black female
Yeah.
president.
Yeah.
By by
Yeah. Trump will
by
come
her.
back in 2024 and wipe out the Democrats. Biden would knock out in 2 years and Harris would take over. And the last thing white Americans want to see is a black woman as the president. Priyadarshi.
Well, the last line is very important. The white Americans don't want to see the black. That can be, but rest is hidden in the womb of future.
Yeah.
Well, uh, look, there was one very interesting question that came up. I
Yeah.
think it had something to do with me wanting more police. When
Huh.
I keep saying that India, there's no state monopoly on violence. I can't seem to find that question here, but
Yeah.
anyway, the thing is,
Yeah.
there are many ways of controlling this, which are not being done. One is to, have video cameras throughout. Uh, you put I'm telling you, you put video cameras on cops and video cameras in police stations. A lot of this will happen automatically. Ask yourself why nobody is doing it. Hmm? Ask yourself why nobody is expanding the Indian Foreign Service. Ask yourself why is nobody expanding the police force.
Yeah.
Ask yourself why is nobody asking for the systemic reforms like body cameras, as they're called,
Yeah.
and proper training to the police.
Yeah.
Uh, Again, this comes back to the fact that what we've seen is a whole load of good intentions, but
Yeah.
compounded clumsiness.
Mm.
One mistake is fine, two mistakes are fine, three mistakes, no. Four mistakes, you've lost it. And what we've seen now is about 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 compound mistakes by this
Yeah.
government. It is not course correcting.
Yeah.
It is adamant, and this is where arrogance doesn't need to be personal. Um, it can also be policy arrogance.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know, and therefore I stay the course.
Yeah.
So there's many ways of controlling expanded bureaucracy. There's many ways of controlling an expanded police force, none of which will ever be done. Okay, because remember, once you bring accountability to one side of government,
Yeah.
it then becomes problematic, because then every part of government will then have to start becoming accountable, which they will never allow to happen. You've brought in some lateral entry, but you look at everybody who's been brought in by lateral entry. They've been chosen by joint secretaries and secretaries to be the yes men who will never disagree with a secretary or an IAS person. That is why they have been made joint secretaries in lateral entry. Right? So you can also have the pretense of reforms without any real reforms. You can have the pretense of accountability without any real accountability.
Yeah.
So it just keeps going on and on and on. If anything, you see that this sort of empowerment of the bureaucracy, unprecedented empowerment of the bureaucracy, first time in 30 years that of coalition governments that you've seen a bureaucracy as empowered as it has been by the BJP, has led to chronic lower level extortion and corruption. Right. There are ways of reducing it, some of which the government is doing. So, for example, excuse me, Nirmala Sitharaman is bringing in this paperless contact for IT evaluation and paperless, all done online. The issue is it still doesn't get rid of the minimum requirement कि हर IT officer को इतने लोगों को पकड़ना पड़ेगा, हर customs officer को इतने लोगों को पकड़ना पड़ेगा. In which case, it's just you're asking them to catch people who can't be caught so that they meet their quota. Na? This is what Mao Zedong used to do with the steel quotas. I think India still hasn't learned from the Cultural Revolution. When you ask farmers to produce a certain quota of this thing, and industries to produce a certain quota of steel, without providing them with the basic iron to produce that steel, you get the great famine that accompanied the Cultural Revolution. You see, so it's. No, I think at some point the free ticket we've given him for good intentions has long since run out.
I would not agree with you there. It is not only the intent.
It's not very different.
If you look at, that's why I said, it's a priority. It's a priority.
Let me finish quickly. Nehru, I don't think anybody can doubt he was a patriot. I don't think anybody can doubt that he had India's best interests at heart. At the same time, I don't think anybody needs to doubt he had a unique ability to pick the worst person for the job. He had a unique ability to screw up things. I don't think it makes the retrospective analysis of Nehru any less harsh. Had Nehru been a Chinese spy, he wasn't. He was a patriot. But he was probably one of the greatest disasters to befall India. So, good intentions, I'm sorry, after a point, they don't excuse you. And I think we're past the point of no return here.
See, in a debate, if you want to just debate, you can even find people who will tell you that Nehru was not a patriot. He was a very self-centered person who did whatever he was told to get his power, and he did everything. Yes, that's why I said it's not very nice to talk about that way, but that is where I make a point that intention is the primary, and I don't discount that. If you keep making mistakes, your intention alone won't be sufficient. But what are the mistakes? If you look at that, yes, there is a slip in execution, but that execution slip is also for various reasons. One simple reason could be that if you do not start execution, you would not even start at all. Imagine saying that when everything set properly, then only I will put the first step forward. Well, life does not move that way all the time, and especially when you are carrying a backlog of mess with you. So sometimes you have to jump in, then fix as things go, because that is a better way than not taking an action. So if you have to do something like that, you have to jump in and do something, and that is where this government has made, you can say, mistakes in that manner. But it is unfair to say that only intentions and no execution. It is unfair to say that they keep making mistakes. I don't know how else, because we don't know the real intricate problems and complexities which people have. Imagine if Modi would have announced in the first year how bankrupt our country was,
Yeah.
how much loan we were carrying, it would have been a depressive state for the whole economy,
Yeah.
which he announced after 4 years when he gave the statistics and people got to know, oh my God.
Yeah.
And he paid off the loans. People are questioning every time that why the gas prices are not coming down, petrol prices high. And then we got to know that he has cleaned up all the today and he's now giving money. So the point is, it is very easy for me to have a coffee table discussion and make judgments. But at the same, that is why I keep telling again and again that, as long as you keep the country first, and I look at the outputs, what has come out so far, I feel as a citizen, everybody's responsibility is to support the right decisions and fix the problem. Yes, corruption is there in the ground levels. There could be. I have got friends and businesses in India who they keep talking about it. Yes, man, there is heavy still, but that could be a desperate corruption and it will fall off. But you have to have a cleaning process. It is not a one shot. You plug a button and everything goes off.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he has like switch off the button from top. That is for sure. Can anybody question that?
Yeah.
So this is not a point of saying who is patriot and who is not. Nationalism is not a debate on that. But the fact is that yes, we are looking at a country which is changing very fast. We are looking at a country where people have woken up. They can even ask questions. They can criticize the prime minister today. It is not like previous times when if you write about PM, then your whole company is closed down. Your newspaper is gone. So we have seen that era also, and we didn't complain about it because we could not complain at that time.
Yeah.
Because you would be fired by the same time. So today you are able to make jokes on people. You are able to do things, but we have to know the dignity, the dignified manner of doing things, and that is where I keep telling that character, the values are important factor. And as long as we can fix now today education, that's my one of the favorites. When I look at it, how much we have degraded in education all the years, we had almost forgotten our own history. And today when I saw the new education policy, very beautifully laid out, and the execution plan which they have is very good, but who is going to be implementing? The same teachers who are in the system. Now imagine there will be some loopholes, there will be some problems, and that is like obviously it is for sure you will see negativity. But as an opposition, as a country, I would say point out that. And yes, there is need in every area. Now again, the police section, if as we talked about it, it is a state again subject. So imagine if reform has to happen, center and state both need to be hand in hand. Center and states both need to have that shake hand and in moving towards the betterment of the country. So we are kind of in a state of like learning through mistakes. But yes, there will be, and I expect mistakes to happen. But as rightly said, we have to keep pointing, keep working. Unfortunately, we don't have that opposition, that strong opposition leaders and opposition who can be that positive and supportive.
Yeah. Another point, Abhijit, that I just wanted to make was in a in a new incident is that see this the National Commission for Protection of Child's Rights initiated an inspection into two children's homes, Umeed Aman Home for Boys and Khushi Rainbow Home for Girls in South Delhi. And the person who is the former member of Sonia Gandhi's National Advisory Council, Harsh Mandar, yeah, he's a part of it. And what's been happening here is that, among other things, like half the things are not working, among other things, sexual exploitation as well. So this is, it's not surprising because many things have been happening earlier as well. But see, this is also, and this guy is supposed to be a very respected guy.
Abhijit, you're on
mute.
Sorry. Great. I mean,
Yeah.
I've never liked Harshmander, but why haven't there been any arrests?
They're working on
You
that. That's what they've done.
you
Yeah,
can
that's
say that the criminal is guilty,
yeah.
but if the criminal is guilty, what is the state doing sitting and twiddling its thumbs? Look, this is what I keep saying. You get what you vote for. This is what you voted for. This is
Yeah.
what Andhra voted for. I mean, if the Andhra voter was actually so concerned about his temple, they wouldn't have voted for YSR. Na? Why is everybody? If the Telugu people aren't worried about their own temples, why the hell should we get worried about their temples? If nobody in the government is concerned about Harshmander running to compromised Shishu alays, why should anybody else get worried about it?
Yeah.
Right. So I'm kind of over this thing, sitting and uh, pointing out, because ultimately, if the government wants to do it, it can do it. It doesn't. And like I said, compound failures. You fail to deal with Shaheen Bagh, which you fail to deal with the initial riots that led to the Shaheen Bagh, which then led to the Delhi riots. Ultimately, it was a continuum.
Yeah.
You failed at every step of the way. And then you failed again in dealing with the farmers' protests. You learned nothing. So this is what I mean. You don't learn from your mistakes. You don't internalize. And mind you, this is happening within a year.
Mm.
This isn't even historical memory.
Mm.
Okay. So congrats. You're getting the government you deserve. Stop blaming other people. Harshmander isn't at fault. If he doesn't get arrested, there's no point having an innuendo campaign against him. I'm sure the government knows what it's doing. And I'm sure, just as I'm sure that NDTV is perfectly innocent, because they're not going after NDTV. They're instead raiding ZTV. So congratulations to you. You get what you vote for. This is what you voted for. Congratulations.
Yeah. A question from Ridhiman Agarwal: is Nepal's Hindu monarchy like? Yeah.
I have to run. Thank you,
Yeah.
Meena.
So
Thank
shall
you.
we just? We'll wind up after this. Is fine.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I have to run. I'm on
Yeah.
another
Absolutely.
chat.
Please.
Okay.
Please. Yeah. Thank you so much. Any answer for this? Ridhiman is asking: is Nepal's Hindu monarchy likely to return?
I'm not expert in
Yeah.
this area,
Yeah.
but what I've heard from a friend, there is a kind of a population cry for that. So,
Yeah.
but I don't know much how it's happening in Nepal. So
Yeah. 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 So that's about it. Thank you so much for being with us, Abhimanyu. And it has been a
my
mixed
pleasure.
response from both of you.
Thank you
It's
very much for
yeah,
inviting me. And just a closing remark. What he said about the failure in farmers, I think it's a perspective.
yeah,
If I may just close it by saying, it's
yeah,
always a perspective, the way you look at things.
mm,
So farmers, if you look at it as a failure from government, I don't think so. I felt it was a delayed response, but then again, when you look at the outcome which is coming out now,
yeah,
then you realize that it was a very smart move. It
mm,
requires a huge amount of caliber to
yeah,
hold on to your guns,
mm,
because you know what you have done is right for the
yeah,
farmers, and this gimmick has to end. And if he had not waited so long, then the exposure would not have happened.
yeah, yeah.
Same
It was
thing
a
for
slow, yeah,
Shaheen Bagh.
yeah, that's true.
Same thing for Shaheen Bagh.
Mm,
If you can take a drastic step and
mm,
use the power and move them off, but when you let them be,
mm,
then the real exposure came out that the funding is coming from where. See, today we know about the funding of Shaheen Bagh. We know who are behind them. We got from them so many clues to get into the internal things about who was capturing them.
yeah,
Yes, you can say an oversight by the local police of not
yeah,
knowing that there was some kind of camp going on where so many foreigners were there.
yeah,
Yes, but whose negligence is? Can you blame that also for Modi?
yeah,
So it's a state level issue. But what turned out from there was they tracked people and they knew exactly how many people have come from abroad,
mm,
and they were all blocked from entering the country. So
yeah,
there is a consequence to it. So to say that an immediate action is not usually the intelligent action every time. And
yeah,
as a government, you cannot be abrupt and emotional about it. You
yeah,
have to really see through, look through everything. And in that process, Yes, some people may find it delayed action or lack of action, but that is why I said give benefit of doubt, because ultimately this government has proven again and again that it is working for the nation. It is not working for a person or a people. And that is the important message, which I feel people must understand. That's the only difference I see, nothing else. The day this government or any government for that matter starts compromising on nation, then you have a different game altogether.
Yeah, yeah.
So thank you
Would
very
you,
much.
yeah. Would you like to take this last question from Shobit? He says,
What is
why
the
does, why does the government agree to the 2 demands out of 4 of farmers? Won't it impact the original motive of bringing the farm bills?
No, it won't. The 2 demands which they have agreed to handle is is actually already taken into consideration. So because if you know, it's like you can wake up a sleeping person, but you can't wake up a person who's pretending to sleep. So if you keep coming and telling me that, keep my MSP, says there is no question of it. So the government says, okay, I accept your demand. But that is not acceptance of demand. That is actually accepted already. So it is, and the thing which they are talking about, other areas of legal issues about the farmers, obviously is a good suggestion, and they say, why not? We will look at it. But the important thing is the 3 bills which they have come out with. They are absolutely important for the country and for the farmers, which they will not withdraw, which is very, very important. And that is the game. So I think that is, it won't compromise at all. This government, I feel people can trust to that extent.
Yeah. Yeah. So Amrita says, thank you for this amazing discussion. Thank you, Abhimanyu. And
ask me, I am in India, Amrita. I am a Canadian, yes, by my passport, but I am an Indian there. I am in India. I'm calling you from India. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And Abhimanyu, hopefully you'll join us for another session later on.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And good night.
Good night.